Hey everyone, Set here. Hope you guys are good. I just wanted to come in and talk about a few things. Very straightforward message with a few topics. And today I wanted to focus more so on transcendence. Last week, or yeah, it was last week actually, I made a video talking about balanced ascension. And we talked about the ascension process, the ups and the downs, and how so much ascension within itself is much more expansive than what is usually presented about ascension. Making your way up the ladder, then making your descent in a way to where you are still capable of traveling through yourself without falling, right? And that takes a certain level of awareness to know how to navigate through your different parts of self, so that you can move freely within your own sovereign body of, energetic body, spiritual body, physical body, and all of that. But today I wanted to focus more so on transcendence, transcending certain aspects of the journey, and going more so into expanding the journey itself. The journey is life. So that can equate to expanding life, right? Bringing more life within yourself, by being or by having that in mind as a goal, right? To transcend certain parts that you're ready to release and move on from. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up with transcendence is healing. Okay, healing within the spiritual community, within this conscious community, the community that we call conscious. There's a lot of us that contribute in conversation and through workshop and so on when we're talking about self-healing, right? Or healing in general, healing certain traumas, and so on. But one of the things that can happen in this particular journey to healing is becoming addicted to thinking that there's something wrong with you, or thinking that there's something that needs to be fixed, and then fixing it only to try to find more wrong with you to fix so that you can feel like you're doing something, so you can feel like you're being productive within your journey. And you are. Everything that you do contributes to your growth, it contributes to your journey. But at some point, when you reach a certain level of awareness with this, you sometimes have to say, okay, let me chill and let me see what I've actually transcended. Do I really need to go through that karmic loop again? Do I really need to experience another trauma, or go back in the past and go back in time to experience something just to again feel valuable to self or powerful to self, to say, hey, I healed this, and now let me go and journey for more trauma? So that's a loop, and that creates a self-perpetuated loop that can pass on from generation to generation if you're not really aware of what it is that you're doing. So then sometimes we pass these things on, or these behaviors on, to our children and so on. So when you become aware of this, you're just like, oh, okay, listen, this is where it stops. And I'm going to put a complete stop to this loop. And I'm going to break through this loop and not go on repeat and reverse. So I think there definitely should be more contributions, at least in conversation, towards what happens after healing. What happens when you've transcended healing, right? Or knowing when you have transcended healing. Some things are about healing and some things are actually not. Everything does not need to be healed. Everything that reminds you of something that hurt you in the past does not have to be packed up in like this long drawn out experience in order for you to get through it. Sometimes it just is what it is. And then you look at it and you're just like, okay, I see what I need to do. You deal with it and you move forward. You continuously expand and you become quicker at dealing with certain issues within yourself. And this is where you're getting to a point of transcendence. So I have this written down, Addicted to Healing. And one thing that I wrote this down not too long ago when I was looking into the addiction to healing, is I wrote down the word addict. And I said, what does addict mean? Addict is an equation of addition that leaves you with less of yourself and more broken pieces. and I'll say that again, an addict, an equation of addition that leaves you with less of yourself and more broken pieces. So it's an illusion of more, right? When you've broken yourself down so much so that it looks like there's more. And the goal is to really gather those parts of yourself and really integrate, truly integrate with these parts of self to a point where what it may look like just, you know, less is actually more, because you are able to truly embody all of you without having to be so fragmented and torn apart within yourself. So usually within this matrix, people are completely fragmented through a lot of traumas, through the programs, the external programs that we all go through with schooling and, you know, socializing and just being human. There's an automatic fragmentation that takes place. And then there's a journey, and there's the I am that is inside of you that journeys automatically at some point, right? That says, hey, let's go find ourselves again, you know, and then the journey begins. So I just wanted to bring that to the surface, because I do feel like a lot of us, especially my audience here, I know that a lot of you are just like, I'm healed, you know, I'm healed. And it's okay to say, I'm healed, I'm good. And what's next? Can we get to like the next level, right? The next level. And yes, the answer is yes, you can, if you make that choice within yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to be self-aware enough to know that if I find myself slipping back into the shadows, which we're going to talk a little bit about later when we talk about present, future, and higher self. But, you know, if you find yourself slipping back a little bit, just move yourself on up. And it's really that simple. Just make the adjustment in real time, and you won't have to lag off so far from yourself that you have to go on the journey of healing again. And healing is a great thing. It really is. It's life-changing. It's necessary. But I even said this, when you heal, it's almost like surrendering to a part of you in saying, you know, whatever the issue is or whatever the trauma is, it's more powerful than I am. So therefore I heal. And, you know, we're talking about the bottom of the foot, the heel, Achilles heel. What is the weakness? So it's constantly highlighting a lot of the weaknesses within self, with lack of self-awareness, if you're not really looking at your healing as something to get through and transcend, and you're looking at healing as more so as a lifestyle. If you're trying to go through the healing lifestyle, you're probably surrendering to the trauma within itself and offering yourself up to go through the pain just to, again, feel like you're doing something. So the question is, are you addicted to healing? You can ask yourself that question. And I said, listen, I'm not, we ain't about to go through these trauma loops, right? We so ready. This is 2020, ready to move beyond that loop or those loops, you know, and change the narrative and change the stories, because again, now there's a fresh perspective, which brings me to the next part of the topic, which is more so present, future, and higher self. And shadows as well. We have to include the lagged aspects of self. So I was actually, you know, scribbling here, and I believe I talked about this in another video when I talked about like Anunnaki and so on, and future self and higher self and all of that. But I drew this out here. You can see this little chart here, right? It probably doesn't even make sense just yet, but there's this, I was thinking about higher self and what we look into, or when we're calling upon higher self, what are we really calling to? Is it this magical, etherical being that we are calling upon that is all knowing and all seeing, that is able to just come in and just answer every call? Like your higher self is just waiting around and it's just like, oh, human is calling me. Human is calling me, so let me come on in and swoop on down and save the day, right? Is that what higher self does? Like, what's this whole concept of higher self? So I thought about it a little bit, tapped into it, and what I was realizing as well is that we from my perspective, it feels like we work from the future back to create. I didn't say back to the future. I said we work from the future back, right? That's usually the thing. So what does that really mean? And we're going to talk about what future is and all of that. But what does that mean? So the future back, meaning that when you're connected to the path of like your core being, not the programmed aspects of yourself, the different chakras that are all distracted in different ways. No, when you really connect to like your core essence, your core being, that we talked about in the last video, that organic consciousness. When you connect to the organic consciousness within you, it's like that part of yourself that is present pulls you up. If we want to talk about direction, up and down, linear, we're gonna speak in these terms of linear timeline because it'll be easier to conceptualize in that language. But it's almost as if this part of yourself pulls up, right? Pulls you up when connected, and it brings you to the present. So there are usually pockets of time that come or that open up for easier connection, and I sense that 2020 is one of these times, these pockets of times that are just like, oh, this is like where you can completely come in and like really connect to your higher self and really get some things going, moving forward rather quickly during this time, 2020, and the energies that are brought forth during this time. So there are pockets of time where it's easier to connect with this part of self. So it's more so, let's just say this is, and I wrote all these zigzags, but this is what we would consider the past. And we have like future self that is just like pulling you up on a very specific path, like pulling you up. Let's go, let's go. How is that happening? It's more so of like a quantum effect. So when we're talking about future self, the present is right there. Okay, so if we can think about, again, if we're looking into linear, we have present self, which is your present I am. But a present self or the present aspect of self is hard to quantify in time. You can't really quantify the present time because there's always a moment moving. It's in constant motion. So by the time you are present, time has passed within that perspective, right? So how I see it is, let's say this is the present, then future is like right there at the cusp of present. So future and present are always traveling together. The more present you become, the more you go into your future self, which is quote unquote your higher self, because it is a part of yourself, a part of your consciousness that has walked the path already. And I spoke about this a little bit on Instagram, but you have walked the path already. So that part of yourself that has walked that path is actually sending signals to the lagged version of yourself saying, we did this already. We did this already. I left you clues. We did this already, right? So that's the aspect of yourself. And it's hard to conceptualize when you are lagging in the shadows and you think you are present. So it's just like, whoa, how's all this happening? Where's this coming from? All these synchronicities, what's going on? Because you think that you are present when you are actually lagging in the past shadows of the past experiences, or what you would consider the past, because it's just a part of you that is lagged behind. It's just a lag behind. If you can think literally about quantum versions of you, there are so many versions of you in every point in time, like when you like go through a flip book, it's just like every moment of you is recorded within your movement and your awareness. So all of these versions can feel like they're isolated or separated from the other versions, whether they're versions that are in front of you or behind you, right? If we're talking linear. So there's a part of you, that I am organic consciousness, that comes in and says, we're going to, just like an accordion, Bring all of your versions together into one point so that we can be present, and now we can actually be higher self. We are higher self. We are not lagging in time. We are right now, and we got the future that's right here, and we're able to actually create the future right now. So I hope I didn't lose some of you guys with that, but this is how I'm seeing like higher self, future version. Even when you think of future, you think of in front, and when you think of higher, you think of up. So they're kind of like directional, still up and forward, right? So when we're thinking about ancestors, ancestors pull us back into past stuff. And when they pull us back into past stuff, it can really feel like they're pulling you back to finish up unfinished business for their whatever it is that needed to be healed. Usually it's mostly for healing. So ancestors are like, wait, you can't leave us behind and go like to future self present, because we got stuff to heal over here. And those ancestors or familiar signatures of versions of you that have lived, right, that are stuck in these loops, try to get the attention of future self, of present self, really, and say, hey, wait, you're moving too fast. You need to come back here and deal with this thing. Now, sometimes you do, because sometimes the quantum effect of healing is necessary when you go back into the past, just for a second, just for a little while, for lack of a better term. But when you go back into the past and you're just kind of like, okay, what do we need to clean up here? I'm here with my awareness. I'm here from the future. I'm here. What do we need to clean up and clear and transmute so that I can get back to being present? So that this is not a signatured, or this is not a repeating loop in my storyline, because I'm already in the future, because I'm present. And the thing is, the gift of being present is the gift of choice. The gift of choice only exists in the present time. So what happens is a lot of people who are lagging in the shadows, they think they're making choices. They think they're actually making choices, but what they're doing is they're following familiar and habitual neural pathways, because those neural pathways are like highways in your brain. So when you're constantly, I like to look at the roads, like the highways, the actual highways, and throughways and all of that, the road that we drive on in our cars, as neural pathways, like a brain, like how it works in our brains. So when you look at that and you're constantly driving to work on routine every single day, and you're taking the same route, subconscious turns on and set into automatic. Like sometimes people are driving to work or to their favorite locations habitually, and they don't even realize that they're not even there. They're actually like somewhere time traveling in their minds, either worrying about something or whatever it is, but they're usually not present. So in that moment, it's a neural pathway kind of thing. It's just kind of like, yep, this I'm just kind of automatic driving here, and I'm not even here. So your consciousness is not even with you in that moment. So that's a lag of self that thinks that it's aware. He or she is aware. But in that moment, no, if you are not present, then you are not aware, which means that you are lagging. So, so this is why, again, it's important to just bring yourself to the present. And it's not hard to be present, and it takes practice, and it's no reason to beat yourself up. Sometimes, again, we need to plan for the future, right? We need to plan and go a little further ahead. This is where we're using our third eye, our vision, to actually plan and to create and build. And then sometimes, again, our ancestors are like, hey, I don't want to have to follow you like the boogeyman and get your attention. Don't let me come find you. So I'm trying to get your attention to come over here so that we can do some clearing. And some ancestors, the signatures of those ancestors are actually genuine about it. They're like, listen, I don't want to live in this ghost loop anymore. I'm good. And then there are some ancestors who are just like, nah, I want to keep you here because I want your body. You know, I want to occupy your body. So therefore, I need you operating in the past so that we can like do what it is that my familiar energy wants to do. You guys follow? So this is where discernment comes in with ancestral lines and so on, to really be aware of who it is that you're visiting, who it is that you're going back to, what kind of traumas, because usually it's more so when you're healing, you're usually healing from a trauma. So you're going back and kind of reliving that, bringing those things back to the surface. And sometimes you can do that unnecessarily because an ancestor is literally just wanting to take a ride. Okay. And it's just like, well, we're not doing that here. But what I can do is I can bring my presence to you as higher self and give you some advice. And what I can do is guide you, but I'm present right now. And you can't really travel to the present because you're just not there. So it's by choice, or sometimes it's by unawareness, because some aspects of ourselves, because we are our ancestors, some aspects of ourselves enjoy actually like going through, you know, like those loops, because they're roles that they play, right? They're like roles, you know, they want to hold on to these roles. And it's just the organic consciousness within you is just like, we did that though. Like, all right, we just gonna have to like leave those lags in those spaces, and eventually they'll catch up, right? But there's a quantum effect that happens either way. When you are present and you are making the necessary changes in your present moment, that actually trickles back to your ancestors, or back to a version of self within this lifetime that actually guides you and helps you. So it's like, you know, those lags may feel like they're getting a message from, oh, right? But meanwhile, it's just you being present that sped you up into time, bringing you to timelessness to be able to even do that in the first place. And again, that takes practice. But that's just a way to actually be aware of your levels of transcendence in doing this. So some of us, so when I say looping in this context, I'm talking about you always being yourself. So I wrote down, you are literally infinite, looping as yourself forever. And I had to really ponder on this as well. When I wrote this down, I said, am I looping as myself forever, or am I just myself forever? Right. So the thing more so is, because we have positive loops, we have loops that we absolutely, when we're talking about just a circle, right? We're talking about a circle, is how expansive the circle is. You know, everything is basically in that way, in that order. That's the original infinity. But so in that space, it's more so like, well, am I aware of this? Because if I'm not, then I'm kind of going nowhere and doing nothing. So you want to turn that infinite into something valuable within your journey. You're like, okay, now I'm aware. I know that I am what I am. I know that I am all that I am. And that's all that I need to know. And in knowing that, let's keep it moving. Let's keep going forward. Let's not continuously, you know, again, just la 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 la, in a sense to where you end up forgetting about that point of time, which is no time. You can't leave yourself, right? So even when people try to like leave this earth early on their own, you know, it's kind of like, well, where do you think you're going? Because although your body may not be anymore, your consciousness is still somewhere. And guess who's with your consciousness? You are. So there is no escape from your own consciousness. So when you are with yourself and you are recognizing yourself in that, then you start to take more accountability for your awareness in knowing this and realizing that just because I may leave this earthly plane does not, well, you will, like your body will eventually, everyone, right? But what does that mean for my consciousness? And am I aware enough to not just get lost again, and just go into just another version of another world, forgetting about who I am? So this is why it's important to hold on to your consciousness. And the way that you hold on to your consciousness is just knowing who you are and never forgetting again, making an oath to yourself of saying, I'll never forget. And if I don't, right, if I do, I've set reminders for myself. But in this moment, in this time, I am present. Therefore, I am. And if you always remember that point, you get yourself out of the traumatic looping and into a much clearer space to actually start creating, right? Kind of like blank, just a fresh start, no karmic loops attached. It's just like, nope, I'm present. I'm a gift to myself. I am able to make a choice and not allow a magnetic pull to pull me back into old patterns with these big ass neural pathways that are just waiting for the car to drive down again because, that's just how you do it. That's what you do. It's a predictable behavior. So it's more so being aware of your own predictability and changing that within yourself if necessary. I also wrote down, we leave clues behind for ourselves as well. So when we're talking about synchronicity, it's us leaving clues behind for us, and it's cool. You could give credit to like whatever ancestor you're talking about or whatever, but I'm telling you, most likely the I am higher version of yourself is just a version of yourself that is present. Usually it's not really like coming from, so sometimes the ancestors would leave breadcrumbs for you to go back to pull you back away from present time. This is why I said sometimes you can go and visit, and sometimes it's kind of like, are you going to live there again? What are we doing? So again, it's just about awareness. What I also put down in this little drawing here are these little spots here. I named those the deviants or distractions, the deviant programs, right? The distractions. So these distractions, as we have future present self like connected to the path, right, that is clear for consciousness to say, oh, I see you, I see the beacon, I sense you, I feel you, I'm here, right? There are deviant programs or distractions that are used, literally they're programmed to take you off of your path. These deviant programs try to destroy future legacies. Okay, they try to destroy future legacies, because again, you're not the only, just because you're present and very close to the future, because there's a slight lag, then so are other beings. Okay, so these deviant programs are there to kind of like just again distract you from your future legacies and your path, or even sometimes disconnecting you from your ancestral line so that you don't even know who, like you don't even hear your ancestors saying, hey, come learn more about yourself, come visit us and let us teach you, because that's a different level of ancestral guidance. And those are the ancestors that I work with within myself. I'm always dealing with the ancestors that don't just want to take me for a ride, right? And just say, hey, let's go into this destructive behavior because I'm stuck in this loop. The ancestors that I commune with are the ancestors that actually teach me, that actually share wisdom and knowledge with me about my past. So those are the ancestors that I will work with, like commune with from my present self. And when doing that, sometimes these, well, not even sometimes, these deviant programs, which are disguised as people, can come in and just like try to cut that line from you and your ancestors that are actually trying to help you remember as well, because they're actually celebrating the higher aspect of themselves by doing that. So it's like they're looking at descendants in a way to where they're like, okay, these are future versions of us that we need to teach. And that's what I call the ancient future. The ancient future is not the same as the quote unquote past. The past is lag. Okay, when we're talking about this construct of time, the past is lag, but the ancient future are those beings who live there on purpose and know exactly what they're dealing with and how to get a hold of themselves in other forms to guide and teach, to keep the wisdom within the bloodline, to keep the wisdom within, right? And this is like, it's huge. That's huge. So those are what the deviant programs try to sever you from. But when you are present and you see what these programs, you see what's going on here, the programs have no effect on you. They really don't. And if they do, it's easier to revert and like reground yourself and get back on track. Once you know how to be present within yourself, you just know. So, okay, distraction, you came in my way. Well, move out the motherfucking way and I'm back. Like that's just what you do with these deviant programs. So yeah, I kind of like, it's kind of like little gnats, like just, kind of walk through them and just keep it moving. That's how, when we see these distractions, is sometimes they present themselves as all powerful sometimes. And then when you know who you are, it's just like, oh, all right, this is not a thing. This is just, I'm just going to move on and continuously be present with myself, and go according to plan based upon my I am. Okay, that's what we're going by. So that's something that I felt was important to discuss, because again, it's not just me. A lot of us are at a crossroads. Some people are at the crossroads, and I brought this up here. You'll see like what looks like a fork in the road. Don't split yourself. You don't have to split yourself. You don't have to make a choice of this way or that way when it's presented to you in this way. You just go to your present self, to your I am, and you just put them together. I am everything. I am my past. I am my future. I am not even in time. Therefore, I am. And therefore, all of my quantum versions of self, even the lagged versions, are at least, there's life that is breathed into other aspects of self that are catching up, because it feels like you're catching up. When you're lagged behind a bit, you're just trying to catch up to yourself. And then when you finally catch up to yourself, now you know how to send out that beacon to these other aspects of self in time and space that will receive that signal from you, from the I am you. So this is not you don't have to choose between, again, one aspect of yourself over another, and in that duality game. If you want to play that game, that's cool, I mean, but it gets a little tiring, it gets a little exhausting, and there are other games to play. And this is why we're talking about transcendence today, because it's more so transcending the duality game and going more so into the expanded aspect of just everything, all things, where it's just endless and infinite in what it is that you can just get into within yourself. So yeah, that's something that is just, it's really up to you. It's your choice in the matter, and you always have a choice if you're present, like I said. Actually drew a diagram of Amenti, the halls of Amenti, which is another thing, and we talked about this in TLC, in the Liberation Code Academy. But this is also another thing when, as I made the video, last video that I uploaded, where we talked about in the private group, the scales, and ma'at, and the feather in the heart, and the weighing, which is really happening inside of you. Sometimes, and that goes back to the conversation of addicted to healing, sometimes you end up at those scales and you don't even belong there. Like sometimes, like, you know, if we look at the deities, you got like Thoth and Anubis and like Osiris and Osset, like all of that, they just there at like supposedly, like let's just have the external picture there, right? They're just there and they're looking at you like, weren't you just here? Didn't you just like get through? Why are you back? Why are you at the scales again? Why do you think you're dead? You know, and they're looking at you like you're crazy, like you really want to put your heart on that scale again? So sometimes that's what addicted to healing can feel like. It's just like, why are you back at this trauma again? You're really putting yourself in a loop. It's funny because to really recognize some of the loops, one of the experiences I had, and I'm very self-aware now at this point, so everything, I notice everything without freaking out, because what I used to do was I used to freak out by these insane synchronicities to the point where I was just like, listen, you know, what is going on? And I talked to y'all about that and everything, but and that's when you're kind of like ascending in a point of yourself where you're not necessarily ready, so you kind of like shy away from what is happening. So I was driving and my GPS was telling me to, it looked like, at least it was telling me to go one way, right, to get off at an exit, but it was really telling me to go straight, right? But I got off at the exit because that's what it looked like to me. So I got off at the exit, it loops me around to come back to the same place, right? So that's one time. So now I'm driving and I end up back on the highway, and then the GPS does the same thing. The GPS says, it looks like it says take the exit, but it's saying another thing and it's saying go straight. I go based on what it looks like, and I'm just like, but that looks like it's telling me to get off the exit. Second time, I get off the exit and it loops me around back to the highway. I said, oh my God, this is so symbolic. Oh my God. First of all, the first time I didn't know, right? Then the second time, it's just like, you really gonna go the same way in the same route because it just happened to first. Okay, cool. Do the loop-de-loo again. All right, if that's what you need to do. So then I did it. And so the third time when it's coming around, I was like, oh, hell no. I was just like, oh, hell no. Okay, GPS is saying the same goddamn thing. But this time, I know that I need to listen to the other instruction that I was ignoring and go that away. And I did, and I was able to go onto my, like, you know, onto the path. So it took me twice in like going off path just to, for the third time, to come around and just say, you know, usually that's what the journey is anyway. And it's just like, oh, okay, I can't do this. I can't do it like this again because, you know, I know better. So that's an example of looping yourself in these spaces to end up back at a place where it's like, you're back at the scales. Would you just go. And this is all internal dialogue though. Again, there is no external anything of any of this, guys. This is all internal. If you are judging yourself, you are being judged. And there are external circumstances that will hold you accountable for the judgments that you put upon yourself. I did a numbers workshop, a story of numbers earlier this year in the group, in the private group. And we talked about, the story of numbers, and we went through the numbers 1 through 13. And we stopped at 13. And so as we went through the numbers, there's a story that the numbers tell each other. And they're always based on the previous number before. So they're all connected. And you can do this way. This way of storytelling is amazing. This is a great way to get to learn how you connect with numbers as symbols, because it is a universal language. I may post that video for you guys, maybe, or you might have to join the Liberation Code Academy to get to it. But it's a really good workshop, and we got up to the number 8, right? So we got to the number 8, and it's interesting because today is an 8 day, right? It's the 17th. So it's kind of like, okay, 8 is a gate, or it could be a gate. It can only be a gate if you are not trapped up in your karmic loops. Okay, 8 is kind of like, it's a duality in the sense where you feel like you're running out of time, right? So, and it's funny because Saturn is associated with time and all of that, and 8 and all that. So it's so interesting that when you see the 8 the way that it is, it's like when you choose to go too far into one part of yourself, whether that's external or too far into internal, right, into your inner world, when you're too far off and out of balance, that's when the 8 is like the hourglass, and that's where time is not on your side, where you're just like spending way too much time, because too much of anything becomes toxic, even healing, like we talked about earlier. So when you're spending too much time in one part of yourself in that duality game, the 8 is the hourglass, and time works against you. So you feel like you're running out of it. So then you got to flip the 8 again. And then you got to like make different choices and do the opposite of what you did, just to kind of feel like you're catching up to time and all of that. So then, of course, as we talked about in the video that I made last week, you turn that joint sideways, but ain't nobody else turning that joint sideways for you. Okay, nobody's saying here are the gates for you. No, you have to be in balance. You have to take the responsibility to turn your own 8 into infinity, into that infinity sign, to make sure that you are able to travel easily and effortlessly within your own infinity. All right, that is your responsibility to do. And when we look at these external religions, they treat the gate of 8 like heaven, like the pearly gates of 8. So they have you thinking that there's this, somebody else, right? A savior has to take the gates of 8 and turn it into balance for you to enter into whatever is waiting for you on that side of self, right? The afterlife, the transcendence life, or the real life, whatever that is for you, whatever you think is waiting for you, it's just you, right? But it's more so, okay, no, it doesn't work that way. You end up right back in the 8, and you end up dealing with the same looping karmic situations, sometimes opposite poles, sometimes all of that. And then some people are not ready to deal with the opposites in that sense. So turn that joint sideways, and you now have the authority and the actual sovereignty to travel through these portals of self without your portals being invaded by others who think that they can use your portal to get themselves through when they are not in balance. So this is why balance and harmony is important, so that you can rely on your own infinity and your own gates to get through, right? So this is the importance of like really being self-aware. So that's one thing that we talked about. And then we talked about like what's waiting on the other side of 8, which is 9. And 9 is like the highest number, really, primarily. And 9 has this ability to rebirth herself, because 9, when we talk about 0 and 9, or 0 to 9, we're talking about 0 being nothing and everything, being the womb that allows the numbers to kind of get through. So when you do like 1 plus 0 equals 1, it's kind of like 1 jumping through the hoop or jumping through the 0 to get to it's to keep itself. 2 plus 0 equals 2. That means 2 is able to go through the portal of 0 and just remain 2. So you remain intact when you jump through 0 in that sense. And 0 is kind of looked at as not valuable, because whatever plus 0 equals whatever. And that's like, you slide into that misconception. That's when you turn more so into the fool. You turn into a fool when you think that 0 is not valuable. Oh boy, do you turn into the fool, because the fool would be like that number 1, right? The fool would be number 1, the fool's journey, the Neo, the one, right? And I swear we talked about this. Um, but Neo being the one, and Neo thinking that, Neo goes on like this whole journey into all the numbers, because we all start off like this. This is not like a person or a being or like a deity or anything. This is all of us. We all go through the fool's journey. We learn ourselves through all of these archetypes of self. So 1 goes through the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, and we talk about that in its entirety in the workshop. But when you get to 8, right, or when you get to 7, that's when you feel like, okay, I've evolved beyond just bodily perfection in knowing thyself externally and through knowledge. So what happens is that 7 archetype, right, wants to get to 9, because 9 is wisdom. So when we all come into our 7th chakra, and that's where we know that there are more numbers in the primary numbers. So either we can choose to stop there and just say, well, I'm just going to travel up and down myself, and I just know all of me. Because when you reach that 7th aspect of self, you know who you are. Like, you know what you are and you know who you are. And if that's enough for you, that's where you stay, right? You don't have to go through the gates of 8. You don't have to even get caught up in time loops. You're just like, hey, I'm just roaming through myself because I know myself. But then when you get to, sometimes when you're at your 7th chakra and you're just like, I think I want to, maybe I want to go through the gates of 8. Well, infinity, really, because it's not really 8 from my perspective, if you're balanced, right? So when you get through that gate of 8, you got 9. And 9 is a power number. Okay, we talk about 7 being the number of perfection and completion, but 9 is a power number. It's an evolved version of 0. Right? So it's a version that actually has some kind of power, because when you multiply, right, numbers by 9, anything times 9, when you add up the sum of that, or the product of that, I should say, when you add up the product of 9 times something, it equals 9 when you add it up. And y'all know this. I don't need to pull up any charts or anything. You know this, right? 9 times 2 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. And you go all down the chart. It regenerates itself if that's what 9 wants to do. And sometimes 9 rebirths other numbers and keeps the numbers the same. So when we go into addition, right, 9 plus 3 is 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So 3 was able to stay the same, right, through 9, but 3 had to go through an alchemical process called 12. 0 doesn't do that. 0 doesn't give the numbers a chance to go through alchemical processes. That's why 0 is kind of simple. It's kind of like just the womb, which is a part of the divine feminine that has been taken advantage of, right? Because it's like, ooh, that's a womb. That's a way into a world. Let's use 0. Let's go into 0, because 0 don't know shit. 0 don't even know like who she is. 0 don't know the power of 0. So she just thinks that she's nothing instead. And because of that, she gets treated like nothing. How many of those feminines, divine feminines, come into this realization, right? So she gets treated like nothing, and the religions and the everything regarding the feminine principle. So 9 comes in, and 9 is just like, oh, first of all, I'm going to teach 0 who she is. And second of all, we're going to use this power of 9. And third of all, Ain't nobody getting to the power of 9 unless they get through their own balance of 8. And they're able to turn that 8 into their own infinity, right? Through self. So by putting your masculine and feminine on the inside, making sure that you are balanced in that way. And that's when your infinity is just like, okay, this is what it is. And 9 knows this. 9 is just like, you can't touch the 9 if you can't get through the 8, if you get eaten by the 8, right? And you don't want to get eaten by the 8. But when you realize like, oh, this is the process, so I'm aware, therefore I'm already tapped into my 9, right? I'm at 9 before I get to 9, so I'm ready for 8, and therefore 8 is not 8. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, if we want to use this as an example, it's just like, listen, today is the gate of 8. I'm already there. Like I'm already like in myself and like fully actualized, because this is the only thing that is necessary. And that's one thing that you can't fake. You can't fake being fully actualized as a being. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. Perfect does not mean it's not like, oh, are you good or bad, or you're perfect so you get through into the gates of infinity. It doesn't work that way. It's authenticity. It's, do you know who you are? Do you know your flaws and your hangups? Do you know your strengths and your powers? Are you good with those? Are you working on yourself? You're a work in process, just like every other human. Don't be so hard on yourself. And that's when you lighten up. And that's when that 8 turns into that infinity for you. And that is a personal journey. So it's more so like when you reach that 7th crown, that 7th chakra, it's like, okay, now I'm ready for expansion and transcendence within my abilities, within my everything. I'm ready to go further into my journey and not kind of go through the numbers again. Because it's like, okay, if you want to stop at the crown and you want to go through that journey again, it's just like, oh, but I kind of been through this. I've been through all the numbers. I kind of been through all the numbers. I'm very familiar with all the numbers. But when you get past 9, there's a reset. There's a reset, and that's where 10 comes in. And 10 is different from 1. 10 and 1 are not the same based on perspective. 1 actually, with the number 10, it's 1 recognizing the zero's value. That's the only way you get to 10. The only way you claim yourself as a 10, right? The perfect 10, you claim yourself as a 10 is only when you see the value of 0. And you can't wait to get to 10 just to see the value of 0. You're like, oh shit. When the 0 comes after the numbers, it adds on more value. Holy shit. No pun intended. So it's just like, oh, there's the value of her. There's the value of the divine feminine, right? Holy shit, right? So you get to that point, and then you're like, okay, we need 0 now. But no, wait, are you good with 0? Because 0 was just like, well, when we had did the thing and I was just 0, when I was just 0 over here, you couldn't see me, right? You couldn't see me. And you thought, hey, let me just go on to ascend, right? I don't need 0 to ascend. And then you get to that gate, and then you get to 9, and then it's just like, well, that's kind of like that feels more so like a state of like just regenerating whatever and whomever you are. Because 9 does not have any prejudices. 9 is just like, you come to me exactly who you are, like as you are. So if this is what you want to constantly rebirth through the power of 9, then you're creating your own path based upon where you are. 9 doesn't change you. Like I said, you go through an alchemical process with 9. So don't be trying to go ascend into 9 if you're not ready for that alchemy. Okay, you better go back to 0 and see who she is, and recognize her value, and then like make your way back up to 9, and 9 to be like, okay, well, you ready for real alchemy now? And are you ready to have fun with it? Because alchemy doesn't always have to be painful. Not when you really know what it is. Not when you start to enjoy, even if it feels painful, even if it feels scary, it's still something that is, it's a different experience that you just cannot compare to anything else. It's an alchemical process that is unique to you. And that's the power of 9. So then when you get to 10, now what do you do at 10? It's like 1 and 0 finally see each other, and they're just like, wow, remember back in the backpack day? It's forgiven. 10 is forgiven. 10 is just like, okay, 1, I see you, and I know that you are me, therefore we see each other. So now we can go on. It's a binary code, but through that binary code, you're actually able to put more combinations of other kinds of codings that are infinite together. You get to actually create more combinations that are endless, because once you get to 10, then it's a wrap. Then it's just like you have access to ever expanding everything, mathematics, like real mathematics, once you get through the singular versions of yourself. So that's when it starts getting real, you know, with the real Ma'at, as I was talking about in the last video. So you get to that. And then when we talked about 11, it's just like, oh, so now you get to see 1 and 1 sees each other in themselves. And that would be the twins, right? You have 1 and 1, the twins. So through the 1 and 1, which was birthed from 1 and 0, now real life actually begins, because you don't stay stuck in the 1 and 0. You don't stay stuck in binary. Binary is a moment. 1 and 0 is a moment in real life where you recognize who you are, both masculine and feminine, and then you say, oh, all is forgiven from the past when you thought you was like better than me because you was 1 and I was 0. But now that we're standing next to each other, we can now give birth to ourselves. Holy shit. More power, more of the, this is the power of the divine feminine and masculine actually like coming into union through these archetypes within ourselves. So this is the only way to really get to that path of true expansion, through numbers. I haven't even gone through 1 through 7, like with this talk here. But again, if you want to check out that particular workshop, you can definitely come over to the Liberation Code Academy. It's in our courses section. It's called The Number Story. And it's just, again, a perspective on how I really see the personal relationship between the numbers as well. So it's a really good way to get to know. As I said, when I kind of do things and I grow into myself and all of this, I'm like doing the colors and the chakra points, the different archetypes, you know, the even 7, he's out there talking about ennealogy and planets and the different days of the week. There are so many different archetypes that you can use, right, to get to know yourself better, whether it be through colors, through chakras, through numbers, through frequency, through sound, through planets, through days, through months. You know, and let's not even forget about the macro aspect of that. And that's a whole other thing. And that might be another workshop in TLC. But when we get to the months, you know, we're in July, which resonates at the frequency of 7. So 7th chakra, crown, we're going into August, which is an 8. We call the Lion's Gate. So we got a whole month of August coming. And based on just what I'm tapping into, it's required that you get to know yourself to be more so in balance during these times. And every time when you notice that this month comes around, you know, shit hits the fan in social and the news and all of that. So don't be surprised. But again, you create your reality, you create your own balance. Don't be so pulled in by external reality in this way to where it knocks you into the loop to get eaten by the 8. Like, you don't want to get eaten by the 8 monster. It doesn't have to be a monster. It's you dealing with your own stuff. And then you get through August, right? So August would be on that frequency of, are you balanced? Are you good? Are you good? A lot of self check-ins during these times, because these numbers and frequencies are very real, you know. And then we get into September, which is the 9th month. So it's very interesting that September is the zodiac that actually has like the human woman or the virgin, right? September being the virgin, the month of the virgin. So it tells you right there that 9 in September is mother in that sense. And we're talking about mother, right? So that's a whole other journey. So even just seeing your months in that way will even help you realign your frequency, and how you're dealing with these numbers. So you know, we gotta like really see these things. So I don't want to be too long-winded, but I just wanted to come in and bring some awareness into, again, the conversation of transcendence, what people would consider to be ascension, but what goes beyond that once you become truly aware and holding yourself accountable for whatever it is that you're dealing with on your journey, so that you can have a real authentic experience. And this is welcomed. It's not judged, it's just welcome. Do you accept yourself as you? And are you dealing with the traumas? Are you healing for real and not addicted to it? And are you really present enough to make true change and truly transcend through alchemy within yourself? So hope you guys enjoyed this talk and this discussion. Again, if you want to join us at the Liberation Code Academy, you can click the link in the bio or a description, or you can go to the liberationcode.academy and join us. Registration closes at the end of the month. Won't be open for long because we're going straight through to December. But this is what we do. This is what it's all about. It's really about self-activation. And it's nothing more complicated than that. You know, I know some people want to talk about the halls of Amenti and the thises and the that's, and we can do all that, but how are you? Are you good? Where are you with yourself before you go dipping into like the tree of knowledge without knowing yourself? Where you going to end up when it's really time to know yourself? So with that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.